What's up, everybody? Flan Speaks is back. I just heard that Nick Cannon was fired by Viacom. I think it was about 7 hours ago for some supposed anti-Semitic tweets that he had made on a podcast. Now, for those who don't know, Nick Cannon is the famous actor, young black male who's probably known for Drumline and also Wildin' Out on MTV. Hopefully, he'll be fine on MTV. But it appears that the podcast that he had that was obviously funded by Viacom has been canceled. I don't know exactly what episode did it or exactly what statement did it, but I have my suspicions that it's likely the episode that had Professor Griff on it. Because when I saw that episode, they were spewing a lot of things that I know that these people they would not approve of. He was talking a lot of what I call black religion, which was formulated from the late 1800s, which is like when slavery had subsided, had been abolished, whatever. And mostly formulated in the early 1920s. You had many different characters that were preaching at that time. You had Marcus Josiah Garvey, who did not really get into talking about black people being divine or anything like that. But you also had along with him during his time, the noble Drew Ali, who formulated the Moorish Temple Science. And this man, though he did not claim to be divine, what he did claim was to be a prophet. You also had individuals like Elijah Muhammad, who obviously had formulated the Nation of Islam, where though he didn't claim to be personally divine, he did say that there was his teacher he claimed to be God in the flesh, Allah Azza wa Jal in the flesh, which is something that is an abhorrent belief that is obviously not true. You also had in other sectors, you had men like Daddy Grace and Father Divine. Father Divine had a community in Philadelphia, and where the building that they had is turned into a hotel, right? He had a cult, and you had other individuals, Dr. York in the 70s and 80s, who had the Ansar Allah community, and much of this contributed to what Clarence 13X had created with the 5%er movement and all of that. Now, I don't completely disrespect these movements because, I understand where they come from. I seek to understand these types of things. When people like us, okay, like our ancestors, were taken from Africa, where they did have traditions, where they had civilizations, where they had ideologies, where they had philosophies, where they had empires, legit empires that were recognized by other states as being legit. Like Great Britain actually recognized the Sokoto state of Nigeria and Chad and Niger during its time. Okay, you had other empires like the Songhai Empire, right? So when you take people from that type of structure and have them give up their religion, you take their children from them, tell them you don't own your children, we own your children, and then they indoctrinate their children with something like Christianity, which is by that time was no longer even the Roman Catholic Catholicism, but was a Martin Luther Reformationist type of ideology. You put in people's mind the idea that a man can be God. Prior to that, black people weren't thinking that. Even the most, I would say, furthest from monotheistic Africans you had might be those who I would call pagans, who had believed that they were one with the earth. Right, which is what paganism is. Paganism is to believe that you are one with the earth. It is not to, worship idols. Worshiping idols is a derivative of paganism, at any rate. Okay, if you were to take the worst of them, they weren't believing they were gods. The belief that black man is God and stuff like that is something that has its origin in Christianity. Because Christianity teaches human beings, that God can become incarnate, become a man, come to earth, sacrifice himself, all of these different things. Okay, not disrespecting it, but I'm telling you, that's the origin. All right. Now, what Professor Griff and Nick Cannon talked about was something that I planned on doing a video on at any rate. They were speaking a lot about this idea that you have the big God, okay, Allah or Yahweh, all of his various names, and that he created lowercase gods in his image, the black man, right? This type of thing, and of course this is nonsense. But what I was going to do was clarify what I think they mean. Okay, in the Quran, Allah says, "Nafakhtu fihi min ruhi," that I breathed into him his spirit. This is talking about when he created man. We created the first man, Adam. Okay, Adam was created, and then he takes the spirit, something that's called the ruh, and he blew it into Adam, and this gave Adam life, and along with it came all of the potential. Now, it's true, every last one of us have this in us, this ruh, this spirit. This is what keeps us alive, keeps us moving, which keeps us vibrant, right? Now, that spirit is something that's connected to the heavens. It's connected to heavenly things. It loves beautiful things. It loves beauty because God is beautiful, etc. I'm going to give a whole video on that. There's a whole science that's known as Ruhaniya. Now, the problem is, I think people like Professor Griff and Nick Cannon and others, the doctor, whether you want to talk about your brother Polites, whether you want to talk whoever, who try to delve into this, they have not sat at the feet of masters of the science. So because they haven't, they're using weird language, like, the black man is God and, that type of stuff, and it's nonsense, and it's paganism, it's anthropomorphism, which is like not healthy. Okay, I'm going to talk about what is the proper religion or relationship man has with God, and that proper relationship is that one is actually a slave of God, and to the extent that he's a slave, the greater he is. All right, because when you look at God, he's all powerful. He controls everything anyway. So the one who submits is actually intelligent. So I'm going to get into that. But at any rate, this here again is an example of what I was talking about. Okay, when you see the word anti-Semitic, Semites, you're dealing with Zionists. So apparently Viacom is either influenced by or ran by Zionists with that particular agenda, which I don't really hate. I think anyone who has an agenda has to operate on that level. And right now, those Jews, those Zionists, they're ahead of us. Okay, they're ahead of us, man, kicking our ass. Because we don't have those type of institutions, we don't own channels, and we don't make power moves like that. Nick Cannon, first of all, should have been out working for some black company that is black funded, that is pumping out black entertainment, where his views could be spewed and they could actually be challenged by someone like myself or others if necessary or whatever, but their free speech would be readily available for him, perhaps. Right, but it should have been black owned. So that's really the root of the problem there. I'm not going to sit here and get mad at Jews. Of course, why would they allow someone to speak something that is opposed to their agenda? Their agenda is what they're about first and foremost, and they're going to crush anything beneath it that doesn't adhere to it. And from their perspective, they should. That's the way it works. What we got to do is understand this is how it works and start to operate on that level ourselves. All right. So it's unfortunate what happened with him, but understand what you're dealing with are Zionists, okay? So I got to go ahead and get back to work. That's just what I wanted to say briefly on that. Look out for the videos that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to give on the whole idea of black religion, its formulation, and yeah, I'll see y'all next time.